Welcome to Smokin Bulls, the podcast about business, money, and lifestyle. Today we're going to be speaking to Lori Power at MP Benefits, a group benefits provider. I'm Tyler.
I'm Dave.
Let's get into it. I'm going to roll back a little bit, Lori, and you did just briefly mention it, but you sometimes speak about a company's vision and a company's goals and how those two things differ. Some guys don't see a difference between that vision and goal definition, but I think you have some interesting feedback that you could share with us. Not feedback, but a perspective on how companies implement a vision and how they might want to implement their goals.
I will attribute this to working with Lois Weinblatt, who's out of the United States. And she put it best. Your vision for your company will never, ever change. It is what drives you forward. So it doesn't matter that we're in a pandemic, doesn't matter of an economic slump. That's why people will open businesses in the worst possible time period and go, oh my God, why did I start my business in 2008? Or why did I decide to open my doors in 2017 when Alberta hit the tank? Why did I do it in 2020 when we were amidst of the pandemic? They did that because that's their vision, that's their passion, that's going to drive them forward. The goals, though, can change depending on what's happening. So your vision is going to always drive you forward, but your goals are going to change to accommodate your environment at the time so that you can reach that next platitude. You're never, ever, as business owners, we know as entrepreneurs, we're never going to finalize on a goal, right? Your goal is just your next checkpoint where you're going to get water and food and then move on to the next one. But your vision is infinite. It's going to continue on forever.
Yeah, I think you worded it, we are accidental entrepreneurs.
Yes.
All of a sudden
we fall into it.
Yeah, we fall into all of a sudden running our own businesses. Now, we sometimes talk to our guests about lessons that they've learned, whether it's in their business or in their personal life. What's some of the best lessons that you've learned, whether it's on the benefit side or personal side? What's something that's been a takeaway for you?
The not being afraid of failure. Knowing that, in every day we fail little pieces at a time, like I can misread something or I can send an email to somebody. You got to not sweat the small stuff, but you also have to be prepared for it. There are times that we're brought right to our knees. Without question, you cannot run a business for as long as we've been in business and not have those times where you are just brought right down to your knees. But it's never a start over because you have all that experience behind you. So it's a matter of not being afraid of that failure, knowing that if I failed once doesn't mean I'm one and done. It just means I got by that one and to move on. And so when you're not afraid of that failure, then you can pivot, you can change, you can move with the times. And so in the time period that we are now, if we're not afraid of failure, we're going to come out of this the other side. And perhaps we will have lost time, of course, but we're still going to be here.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway.
I think, obviously you deal with a lot of companies, a lot of founders, as you say, or owners or managers who have to implement these benefit plans. What would you say are your top strategies, your top 5 strategies in, having them be prepared to look at their group benefits? I think, you must run into roadblocks quite a bit with, it's not their annual review date. Everybody seems to think you can only take care of your group benefits on that one particular day of the year and you shouldn't look at it any other time. So what are your 5 strategies? I guess you pick it, 5 strategies that you employ to deal with people about their taking over their group benefits and sending them in a new direction? Or what are your 5 strategies, I guess, that you would ask your potential clients to be employing in order to prepare themselves for having the best structure, best setup?
That's a great question. The 5 that come top of mind is to know that they're never locked in. So employee group benefits is you're never locked in year over year. There's multiple touch points within the year because we are dealing with multiple insurance lines for multiple people. So it's really uncommon for me to go a long period of time without connecting with clients. So so that's the number two, that if you're not having those multiple touch points, well, you should be, because things are happening then that are going to catch up with you. You get what you pay for. So if you're all about the rates, well, then you're not going to be all about the coverage. Liability issues are a big deal. You want to make sure that you're on side liability wise with regards to the benefit program. Most common one I'll come across on the liability issue is an employer will find out that an employee has spousal coverage elsewhere, and then they'll say, well, you don't need to have this one. Oof, that's a no-no, right? You cannot discriminate based on marital status. So and that's just one of the tip of the iceberg on those. But to know first and foremost that they're never locked in, that they can change at any point in time, I think and they are always in control. The worst case scenario for an employer is when they don't feel that they are in control of their benefit plan, but they actually are. They have full control over it.
I think because we've worked with you before with some of our clients, I know that something that you work on that we don't see from other plans that we have association with, but not necessarily in our name, is that you kind of go to bat at renewal time and have the ability to kind of change some of the offerings that the insurance company is making at that time. I know that you've worked on going back to the insurance company to rework those numbers to always make sure that what other options are out there, I guess, at that point too. So I think that's a big benefit that a lot of people are not aware of. Working with someone like yourself is what it's really about. I think it's part of the touch points that you talk about. You've got to be there and you've got to be working on that. It's not just, the plan's in place. I'll call you in a year when it pops up. There's things that you're working on constantly.
There's no enemies. That I think sets me apart as well, is you have to work in tandem with the insurance providers for the benefit of the client, which is the employer. If you set out to say that the insurance carrier is all wrong and you're not trying to work with them in partnership, then you're not doing your client any favors. When I have a number of standalone contracts that there's not another broker in Canada has. And the reason I have that is that ability to work with the insurance provider in order to do the best for the client. And it's a lot easier to do that when the community sees you as working in harmony with them and not out trying to undercut them. So for the sake of the client, you work in a good partnership. And that allows you at that renewal time to go and make that argument to the insurance carrier for the best of the rates. So I'll give you a really good, for instance, and you can choose to use this or not, but a really good example of working in partnership is during the pandemic, one of my clients was doing the very best they could for the employees, and they kept them on marginally on an income to keep and sustain their benefit program, even though they were in a layoff position. So every 60 days, they would pull them back in, keep those benefit plan intact. But things changed in September, where the insurance carriers went from including disability as part of that extension of coverage, and they took it out. Now, that extension of coverage for disability was in itself unprecedented. They'd never done that before. So in September, they cut that off. Well, during that point in time, we had a client that had a disability claim. So when they went back through the paperwork, the insurance carrier didn't want to pay that claim, and they would have been completely on side to decline that claim. The employee was working less than regulated hours as outlined in the contract. It was when the extension of coverage shouldn't have been granted. But we went back to the insurance carrier and we said, listen, this is the story of that employer and their relationship with their employee. What can we do for the benefit of not only the employee, but the employer to get the best outcome? I'm really pleased to say they paid that disability claim. It was modified down to the hours that the employee was actually able to work. But if I didn't have that relationship with the insurance carriers, I never would have had the opportunity to tell that story and get that claim paid. And at the end of the day, it's all about making sure that protection of income is there for the employees when they can't work.
Thanks for watching this episode of Smokin Bulls, the podcast about business, money, and lifestyle. You can find out more about us at smokinbulls.com or follow us on our social media.